Deven!
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, I am phenomenal. How are you?
I am doubly as good now that I'm hanging out with you. So this is a real pleasure. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, for just kind of like accepting and coming on and speaking to me. So let's jump right into it. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself for those who do not know you?
Sure. I'm Deven Rodriguez. It is a pleasure to meet everybody that is here. So what I do is really simple. Whenever somebody asks me to introduce myself, it's kind of difficult to do it in like a short amount of time. But I'll tell you what, I have a podcast book agency. And what I specifically do is I work with high-level entrepreneurs, the names of like Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Noah Kagan, Tanner Chittister, a bunch of big name people, but also people that aren't huge, but they have to be at a high level, meaning that I don't work with people that are beginners. And what I do is I help them get booked on the biggest podcasts in the world. So if you pretty much name the podcast specifically in like business and entrepreneurship, I get them booked on those podcasts so that more people can find out about who they are. Because really, the biggest thing that I learned in my journey is that I was really good at what I did, but nobody knew what I did. So really, I help people get in front of audiences that are not there so that they can grow their own personal audience without having to spend a lot of money on advertising or a lot of time on social media. So that's in really short, like there's a whole lot behind that. But that's a little bit about kind of what I do in business.
Okay, that's awesome. And let me just ask you this. What inspired you to take that route? Was it your own personal journey of where you're like, hey, I'm great and not enough people know about me? Or what sparked that flame for you?
So I started a podcast about 6 years ago, my own personal podcast, and it was called the One Life Podcast. And the reason why I named it that was because I lost my grandmother very suddenly. And what I realized was that, it's funny. When I went by my grandmother's house one day, she asked me, she said, Deven, I would really love if you could sleep over tonight. And I said, Grandma, listen, I got to go to school tomorrow. It's just not going to work out. A couple of days later, my grandma ended up having a massive heart attack. And next weekend, I told her, I said, Grandma, I'll sleep over next weekend. It never came. So when I went through that experience, it really made me understand that I only have one life to live and there's no time to wait. So I better act now. So I started my own podcast back in 2017, 18, but I continued to do that. And then in 2020, I had a real treat. I was lucky enough. I don't know, are you familiar with Clubhouse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went on Clubhouse for the first time ever. Mind you, this was right after I had one of my biggest failures in the military. So I'm actually still in the military, active duty. And I had this super big failure. I was supposed to go to a school and pass it. It was 62 days long, and I failed on day number 1. So I don't know if anybody that's listening to this has ever experienced something like this, but it's one of those experiences where something happened and it wasn't good, but you just knew that something better was coming as a result of it. Mm-hmm. And I felt that within me, that there was going to be a blessing that was going to come out of this like really bad situation. So I went online and I posted on Instagram a black screen, like you can't see nothing. And I just wrote the words on the screen. I said, I just received the best news of my life. And I had my family calling me, friends texting me. They were like, what's the news? And I didn't answer any of them because I didn't have any news. I just knew that something big was going to happen. So I get invited to Clubhouse. This is when you still needed an invite to go on Clubhouse. My friend Leslie invited me. And the first room that I joined was a room where Les Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with Les Brown.
Of course.
He was speaking. And I was like, no way. This is Les Brown. It's Les Brown. It's Les Brown. I was freaking out because growing up, I was bullied for many years. So one of the people that really helped me get through those times was Les Brown. So I saw him speaking in there, and my goal at the time was to be this big motivational speaker. So I went in the room and I started listening to him, and he was talking about this program that he was launching called Hungry to Speak, and he was going to teach and train speakers how to tell their story, monetize their message, do all of these different things. And then he got to the price, and he was like, it's only $297 a month. Mind you, I was 22 years old. I just bought a house, just bought a new car, just got my first job. So to me, $297 a month, I said, oh my God. I wish he was like saying like $2.97 a month, something. So I was like, what am I going to do? I called up my dad and he said, Deven, listen, you want me to lend you the money? I said, no, Dad. He said, well, you better figure it out. So I took out my credit card, and I still do this to this day whenever I'm faced with an investment. This is something listening. If anybody's listening and you're like, I don't know if I should spend the money on this thing, this is literally what I do. I take the credit card out of my pocket, I hold it out in front of me, and I just look at it, and I ask myself this very simple question. Are your goals and your dreams worth it? And more times than not, the answer is yes. So I invested $297 a month on a credit card that I got when I was 17 years old that had 34% interest on it. And 2 weeks later, I got an email that said, sign up here for a one-on-one onboarding call with somebody on the team. So I joined Les Brown's program. I signed up for the one-on-one onboarding call with someone on the team. I go on Zoom, and sure enough, it's Les Brown on the call. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, take the wheel. Take the wheel. So I get on the call, and I'm expecting him to like say, hey, Deven, nice to meet you, whatever. He doesn't say none of that. He says, son, what do you want to do with your voice? I said, sir, I'm going to be the greatest speaker in the world. That was my goal at the time. And he said, okay, well, it looks like we have work to do. So we got to work, and it was a group program, but Les just took a liking to me because I put in a lot of work to developing my ability to speak. And it transformed my ability to communicate a message. The problem a lot of entrepreneurs have is that they think that they can speak really well, but they can't, or they don't know how to. Like I study people, another mentor of mine, like Myron Golden. That dude's on another level of communication.
So crazy.
Right? Like, it's incredible. So it's like, who are we comparing our ability to communicate to? So long story short, I started to get coached by Les. 6 months, about 3 months later, I'm on Clubhouse. I'm practicing my storytelling on Clubhouse, telling all of these stories. I got a message one day in my inbox from a woman named Heidi Wild. I'll never forget her name. And she said, Deven, have you ever thought about teaching this to anybody? I said, Heidi, teaching what? What are you talking about, teaching people? She said, teaching people how to share their story. I said, Heidi, listen, I don't do that. I speak. I don't teach people. And she said, listen, you should really consider it because you're actually really good at it. I said, Heidi, nah, that's not for me. Well, they say coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So I went to my bank account, and I had negative $3 in my account. And I was like, maybe Heidi wasn't wrong after all. So I went back and I said, Heidi, you serious about this one? And she said, Deven, yes, I think you could really do this. So I was like, screw it. What do I have to lose? So I went out and I put together a program that was like $100 a month. I had no clue. It was actually $119 a month to be exact. Don't ask me how I came up with that. All right. And I took a small group of like 3 people and I started teaching them how to share their story and their message. And that was the start of my business. And that kind of transpired. And I had this revelation one day. The biggest revelation was I helped people share their story. But a lot of people, when the time came to stop working with me, they didn't have a platform to actually get out there and share that story. So that was the next evolution of, okay, I teach people how to tell the story, but now I get people on podcasts so that they can actually tell the story, right? So, I mean, listen, there's like 3 years in between all of that we can get into, but I'll stay there for a minute just so I don't continue just blabbering.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I can't even imagine how mind-blowing that must be when you're literally, because I started listening to Les Brown when I did my transformation from saying this music is no longer serving me. I want to listen to something that's motivating me. So right, Les Brown popped up. It was Dr. Miles Monroe, the GOATs. So I can't even imagine getting on a Zoom call expecting to see like a team member and you're like, it's like playing basketball and then like ending up walking onto a court and Kobe Bryant's like right there, or like LeBron James is like, what's up? And you're like,
yeah,
what did I do? Did I go to the right place? Like that's amazing. And then something else that you said that's so powerful is to take your credit card and ask yourself, are your goals and dreams worth the investment?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that stops a lot of people from being able to walk across that bridge that actually bridges the gap between their reality and what it is that they truly desire. So that's amazing. And I love that you put that out there for people. Now, fitness. Where did your fitness journey start? Did you start out with sports, or talk to me about that?
Yeah, so I was bullied for a long time growing up. For about 6 years, from second grade to eighth grade, I was bullied a lot. And I was also like a really chubby kid. I come from a family where like we're Italian, number one. I'm Hispanic and I'm Italian, but my Hispanic part comes from my biological dad. He's not in my life. So I had my other dad, who's my real dad. He's been with me since I was like 2 or 3. He came into my life. He's also Italian. My mom's from Italy. So one thing you know about Italians is Italians like to eat a lot, okay? So growing up, I placed such a high value on food. So I started to get really, 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 really chubby really quick. So by the time I was in 8th grade, I was like, I don't know, I'm short. I'm like 5'7". But when I was in 8th grade, I was probably like, I don't know, 5'3", and I was like 190 pounds. So I actually went to Weight Watchers with my dad, and I signed up for Weight Watchers, and I lost like 20 pounds. And I was like, I wonder what it would be like if I started to work out. Now, I was playing sports at the time, playing baseball, basketball. Sports have always been integral in my life. You know, in reality, I thought I was going to be the next Michael Jordan, and then I only became 5'7", and clearly didn't work, okay? So I started working out when I was about 13 years old. I started to go to the gym, and it really did change my life, because what I don't think a lot of people understand in terms of fitness is that there's a quote by, why am I blanking? Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said that who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. When you walk into a room and your physical presence says you're disciplined, you don't have to say you're disciplined, right? When your physical presence say, I take care of myself, that tells people that people take care of me. Because it really cracks me up. Like, how can I ever trust you in business to take care of me if you can't even take care of you? So in terms of fitness, I'm like a crack addict for fitness. Like if I don't go to the gym, I was telling my girlfriend, I'm like a crack addict when it comes to the gym. Because in terms of being an entrepreneur, this is a tough game. Every day you're going to wake up and you're not going to believe in yourself. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to think you should quit. Like I was just looking through my journal. Luckily I have it right here. And I was looking through it as I was reflecting this morning, because I'm hitting some pretty nice goals in my business. And one of the things that I wrote down, I'll read it out loud. It says, anyways, I wanted to come and write as I'm on the flight back to Atlanta. I was sitting on the plane with a knot in my stomach and what felt like a ball in my throat. I felt super shitty. I honestly sat down and asked myself, should I quit? And what would happen if I did quit? It seems lately as if someone came into my heart and sucked away all the passion I had for what I do. So that's the reality of what being an entrepreneur is. And a lot of people think that that's like, if they experience those feelings, that there's something wrong with them. But what we don't understand is that is the game. That's like how you know you're doing something right, is when you're experiencing those feelings. So I share that because fitness is something that I do every morning. I get to the gym between 7 and 7:30, and it allows me to go somewhere in myself that I typically can't go by myself. Because when you have 300 pounds on your back, or you have to bench press 225 for X number of reps, like you can't just do that meditating or doing something like that. So being able to do that, one piece of it trains you mentally. But like, can I be real? Like when you like how you look, you also feel better about who you are, and it enables you to show up more powerfully in your life. So yeah, I have a coach for fitness and nutrition. He does my nutrition, he does my workout plan, and most people would look at me and be like, you don't need a coach. But I think I need a coach, because there's always another level that I can go to, and there's always going to be somebody else that knows more about that area than me, like you. Like I'm sure there's a lot of women watching this right now, like, I don't need a coach. Really? Do you look like her? No? Okay. Right. So I say all that to say, like, it's an integral part to everything that I do. And if I don't go, I don't feel normal, to be quite honest with you. So I've done a lot. I've run ultra marathons, 100+ mile races. I've won some of those. I've done a lot in my physical fitness journey. But really the thing that it's done the most is calloused my mind in a way where I know that I could do hard things. Most people have a hard time doing hard things because they've never done hard things. So if you could just commit to going to the gym for the next 3 months every day and don't skip a day, you get to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm proud of the work that I just did. I know I can do hard things. So it's a lot more than what people just see on the surface in terms of, oh, she got a 6-pack, or look at her, she could do some pull-ups. It's a lot more than that people don't experience. And it's like people say, I don't want a Ferrari. Those are also the same people that never drove a Ferrari. I don't need big biceps. You've never had big biceps. Okay? It's like, how can you say you don't want something if you've never experienced it? So what we do is we put ourselves into a mental prison where we just continue the same cycle day after day after day after day. And then when it comes December, we say, I'm going to have some goals this year. And then by the second week of January, we sacrifice them because the old version of who we are tries to pull us back. And I'll end on this. I have a quote that I always say, and I say, don't allow who you've always been to determine who you're going to become. Because it's always trying to pull us backwards. So yeah, that physical fitness to me, long story short, is everything. I love it. It's great. And that's why listen, can I be honest with you guys watching this?
Absolutely.
A couple of days ago, and number one, you're shredded. Okay. But number two, like, if anybody's watching this, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl, like, this is a woman who's leading by example. So if you guys are looking for someone to help you get in the best shape of your life, like, look no further. She's not me. She didn't know I was going to say this. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say, because you exemplify what right looks like. So congratulations for being a good example for us to follow.
Thank you, Dev. I really, really appreciate that. And, you know, to backpack off, you've said so many like powerful things. I'm literally about to pull out a notepad. But one of the things that I truly believe is that when it comes to fitness, and tell me if you agree, the body is only a byproduct of the becoming.
The body, we'll say that one more time. I need to let that sink in.
Right, exactly. So the body is a byproduct of the becoming. Right? So when you become the person, because especially when you first got started out, you don't see the final product.
No.
Right? Just as a painter who's getting ready to put that first stroke on the canvas, they don't see the final product until it's complete. And so many of us walk into spaces and we're like, oh, I want to get into the gym. I want to have this 7-figure business, but it's dollar by dollar. It's not all 7 figures at one time. I mean, unless you're working with Myron, you just so happen to have $1 million day, but that's beyond the point. You know, for most of us starting out, it's building. It's understanding that it's the reps continuously. So when you first got started and you first transitioned, how did you help yourself hold that image of your end goal in your mind while you kept showing up every day? Like, what were you doing?
Is fitness related we're speaking?
Fitness related, and as well as in your business.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the same. Man, I had Russell Brunson say something really awesome, and it was at his event, Funnel Hacking Live. It's like freaking 3-4 days. Like, it's ridiculously long. I don't remember anything. Like, I remember some things, you know, but one thing that I do remember, and it was the very first talk on the very first day. And what he said was, whenever we look at our lives, what we have to understand is usually it all starts out with some type of whisper from God, where you just, like, you see something and you're like, I want that. And the problem is that we have such a gap that currently exists between where we are and where we want to be, that we have no idea how that's possible. So for me, I'll be honest, I got to use what I have, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. So number one, God like this pops this up. For me, when I was younger, I was like, I want to be a motivational speaker. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue how I was going to get there. But then what happens is God speaks an idea into your head, and he says, Deven, do this. And you're like, do that? What? And what God sits there and does is, and he says, okay, is Deven going to be a good steward of my idea? And if you are a good steward of that idea, and you act on that idea despite the feelings of self-doubt, overwhelm, frustration, anxiety, depression, etc., what happens is when you start to take action on that idea, God is going to give you an elevated idea. It's going, oh, wow, really, God? you want me to do that? No, get at it. Really? And then he's going to sit, he's going to watch. He's going to say, what is Deven going to do with this? And then eventually, when you take action on those whispers that God is speaking to you, one day you look back and you say, that all made sense. But when you're going through it, it doesn't make sense. So for me, I believe that our conscience is God's way of speaking to us. So I think that whenever I listen to my conscience, I know I'm doing something that's taking me closer to where I want to go. And as long as it's within integrity and I'm doing something that's moral, ethical, and legal, I'm going to do it because it's God speaking to me. Sorry about that. I got a call. God speaking to me from within myself. So, hey, guys. By the way, my mom calls me like 6 times a day. So somebody, it's probably my mom. All right? Okay. Hey, just to be real with you guys, I love her. So I say all that. There's some people watching this right now that are in a position in their life, fitness, business, whatever, relationships, where they don't know what to do. But for me, any breakthrough that I've experienced has come through a period of silence, like just being with myself. There's a quote by Wayne Dyer. He says that you can never be lonely if you like the person you're alone with. And I think that a lot of people don't like spending time by themselves because they don't like the person that stares back at them in the mirror. So for me, it's listening to those whispers of God. So I'll give you an example of this. I want to speak directly to somebody right now that is in a position that I was in about 4 months ago. I remember going to Funnel Hacking Live. I have a car. It's a very nice car. I mean, that's subjective, right? But it's a Corvette. So it was like my first really nice car. So I go to the valet the first day and I want them to park it right in the front. It's a nice 2023 beautiful car, right? No problem. They're like, okay, I give the guy $20. He's like, no problem. I'll take care of it for you. The next day I come back and it was packed. And he was like, listen, dude, if you want to, if you want to park up front, you're going to have to give me a tip. I was like, all right, how much you want? And he was like, I'll let you decide. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, what does that mean? So the day before they took Venmo. This day they were like, nah, we're not taking Venmo, only cash. I said, all right, cool. Is there an ATM? So I went inside to the ATM and I took out my business my business card. You know, I have my personal and I have my check and my business checking accounts. Put in my business and I go and I press $40 and it said decline. It's like, decline? What are you talking about? Take it out. I put it back in, decline. What the hell's going on? So I click on the button on the ATM. It says view balance. And I had negative $231 in the bank account. I'm like, wow. Like I knew I was in a bad place, but I didn't know that I was in that bad of a place. But here's what I really need everybody to understand. That is the best place to start. Because when you're at zero, you have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. There is no downside. When you make $1 million, there's a lot of downside. But when you're at $0, there's no downside. So here's what I did. I said, listen, do you know how embarrassing that is, first off? Like for yourself as a man to be at an ATM and to have your card continue to be declined because you can't even pay the valet guy. Like that is quite embarrassing to me. So I got back from that trip and I was like, all right, like I need to make this work. There's another quote by Emerson. He says that once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen for you. So I was like, you know what's funny about Funnel Hacking Live? They have like this walk of fame where they have like this person made $1 million, this person made 10 million, 25, 100. And I'm looking at these people and I wrote it in my journal. I said, there's just no way that every one of these people is smarter than I am, is more smarter than I am, is better looking than I am, is more fit than I. Like I started to get all the reasons. So I came home from that event. I was like, shit, like, what am I going to do? This is like the end of September. Okay. The end of 2023, September 2023. So I was like, okay, like, I'm like, want to get people booked on podcasts and stuff. Like, don't really know where to start and all this stuff. So I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, there was a coaching program I'm a part of called Elite CEOs. And the CEO of Elite CEOs is a gentleman named Tanner Chittister, who's like the #1 online business coach out there. He does about $1 to $2 million a month. So I was like, what if I could get Tanner on some podcasts? So here's what I did not do. I did not go to Tanner and I did not say, Tanner, can I help you? Because here's the thing, if you want to connect with people who are at a higher level than you, don't ask them how you can help them. Figure out how you can help them, do it for them, and then bring it to them. So what I did is I got Tanner booked on a bunch of podcasts, didn't say a word to him, and I went back to him and said, Tanner, you want to go on these podcasts? Of course, he said yes. And I said, great, you want to continue the relationship? He was like, yeah, but I don't want to pay you. I was like, I don't want to be paid. I just want to do it for you for free. See, here's what Nehemiah Davis, I once heard him say this 5 years ago. 5 years ago. He said, never miss an opportunity because a paycheck isn't attached to it. And he said that, and it always stuck with me. So when I was working for Tanner for free, getting him on all of these biggest shows in the world, all the biggest business podcasts, entrepreneurship podcasts, I treated him like he was paying me $1 million because I knew that, number one, I really loved the dude. That he's like an amazing friend and just an amazing mentor. But I also knew that this is what I call high leverage work. Leverage is defined as this, the difference between what you put in and what you get out. So I worked really hard for Tanner for 30 days, but I'm able to get him on 15 of the biggest podcasts in the world. Now Tanner wants to give me a testimonial. Now Tanner wants to connect me with his friends. Now Tanner wants to blah, 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 blah. Now this is October. November comes around and people start seeing what I'm doing, because here's also what I did. I started traveling around on my own dollar, paying, despite being minus $231 in debt, going to all of these, flying to Las Vegas, flew to Atlanta to go on social proof, buying hotel rooms, doing all of these things because I knew it would be worth it, right? Sometimes you just have to do something because you don't see just where you are right now. You're able to see beyond yourself. So I was like, okay, this is going to work. So I started posting all of the pictures with Tanner everywhere that I went. Posted pictures with David Shins. I started posting pictures in Las Vegas. And guess what happened? People were like, yo, I see what you're doing for Tanner. How much you charge? First, I was like, I don't know, like 5,000. I was like, 10? I'm like, okay. Next one, 15? Okay. So in a month, I literally went from $0 to $65,500 in a month. So I say all of that to say this, like, it doesn't take time to go where you want. All it takes is a decision. And I genuinely believe that. Like, we just do not make a decision. Because like Myron Golden, he says something along the lines like, decision comes from the Latin word decadere, which means to cut off. So like when you like Alex Hormozy teaches this sales objection overcome. He's like, all right, so which future are we gonna cut off today? The one of your past or the one of your future? I always think of that. I'm sorry, but I'm serious when I say that, because like I just had to make a decision, that understanding that if I start down here, this is the best position that I could ever start at. And then I started positioning myself in a way that was high leverage. You know what I did not do? I did not go on Instagram and post 500 reels and spend all of my time videoing, editing, doing all of these things. I did not spend my time doing that because there is not leverage found in that activity. Most people think that they're just going to post on Instagram and become famous. In reality, you're not Kim Kardashian, where you can sell your toenails for $1 million, right? So when I started to like think about like, how can I get more out of the effort that I'm putting in? It was just really simple. Connect myself with people that could take me farther than I could take myself. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but I'll stop there for now.
Deven, that's so powerful, just the way that you were able to, for one, everybody, and I'm sure it's safe to say, everybody knows what it means or how it feels to look at your account and either barely have anything or just not have enough whatsoever.
One more example of that, please.
Yeah.
This is about a year ago. So in Alabama, where I was living at the time, there's a place called Jack's. And Jack's is like a McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, etc. So I'm going, and I wanted to get I love milkshakes. So I wanted to get a cookies and cream milkshake. It was $4.31. So I pull up to the window. Sir, your total is $4.31 today? Oh, okay, no problem. I handed my credit card, my debit card. And we were like, I'm sorry, that credit card was declined. I was like, the credit card was declined? Come on, really? I was like, no, it got to be your machine. They're like, well, sir, do you have another card that we can use? So I handed them a credit card this time. So I handed them the credit card, and it swiped. And they said, sir, that one went through. I was like, oh, shit, it's not the machine. I'm broke. So I couldn't afford a freaking cookies and cream milkshake. Okay, guys? So I just want you to know, like, some people think, okay, I'm at like $5,000 a month right now, or I've only lost 2 pounds in the last year. That doesn't mean that you can't be at 2 million a month next year. That doesn't mean that you can't be at 200 pounds next year. It really, like, when I was in a room back last March, I was at the coaching program I'm in, Elite CEOs. They had this breakout room, and they were like, okay, people that are under $10,000 a month, go sit over there. People that are at 50 over here, 100 over there. When you're making $5,000 a month, you look at people that are at $100,000 a month, and you're like, that is so far away. But what we don't understand is that when you just listen genuinely to the whispers of God, and you just put yourself in positions where you don't just do things because everybody else is doing them, then your life can change really quickly. And what you once thought was impossible quickly becomes your reality. So yeah, that's that. Like, yeah, I had a bad moment at Jack's. I couldn't get that cookies and cream with my debit card.
It's okay. And you know, those are the humbling experiences that we have to go through. And I want everybody to notice, and this is something that I have been talking about for the past year. Your facts have a positive and a negative around them, right? Myron talks about this all the time. So you can either focus on the positive or you could focus on the negative. And you can't change the facts, but you always get to decide the beliefs that you form from your focus, right? So when you're focusing on the positive, and the facts is something you can't change. So it's just like, okay, cool. I didn't have the money for the milkshake, right? But even though that may be a fact is prone to changing. And you're just like, that doesn't stop me from the endless opportunities that are right around the corner. And had you have taken the negative route and we're just like, I'm broke, who am I to speak to people? We wouldn't be having this conversation today. So it's having the ability to cultivate that desire to focus on the good that you can't see in this moment and to disregard, right? Because your eyes tell lies. So yeah, okay, cool. The money isn't there, but, and that may be true for the moment, but there's also a truth to what's coming to you that you haven't even positioned yourself for. So I think that's just, it's amazing. Now, let me ask you, so obviously you've scaled your business, you've done extremely well. You're in a position to where you're walking in your purpose, and I'm sure you're booked with calls on a daily basis. Do you plan your day ahead? And then if so, are you routinely in the gym in the mornings? How does your nutrition work out? How do you make sure that you're not eating fast food in between calls because you're extremely busy? What does that look like for you?
I mean, I still got a full-time job too. Now I'm in a really awesome spot in the military right now where like my work is super easy, so it's great. But like I still got a full-time job too. So I'm balancing quite a few things. So first thing is every morning I wake up typically between like 4 and 5 o'clock. Okay. I really want to get it down to 4, but I've really been off a little bit with that. But I like waking up early because that's when I think my best. That is when I have the most energy and I just feel most aligned with my purpose. So the morning time. And that's when I take a lot of time to reconnect with my mindset, number one, because I wake up negative every day. I wake up thinking of all the reasons why it won't work every day. I wake up thinking that I can't do this every day. So I need to reconnect and remind myself of what does the next level version of myself think and believe about myself. So like I wrote it down in my journal and I have it right here. I wrote down, what does the $225,000 a month Deven think and believe about himself? And I have to remind myself of that all of the time. So that's the first piece. Then I'll go to the gym. That's typically for like 2 hours because I work out for like 90 minutes-ish. And then I go to the sauna for 20 minutes. And then I take a shower at the gym. And then I come home. Now, I'll be honest, guys. My nutrition is good. I got macros. I eat about 240 grams of protein a day, about 100 grams of carbs, and 44 grams of fat. But I'll be honest, like I hired this coach. Oh, I'm about you don't like. Now I've been there's been days where I have not been that consistent with it, right? And I'll be honest, like that's my one vice. Some people struggle with, drugs, alcohol. For me, I love food. So like growing up, I associated food with pleasure. So it's been a battle for me to really overcome my straight up, I'm not gonna say addiction, but like desire, like love for food. But it's getting better. It is getting better. Then I only do a couple of different things in my business. Number one, I reach out to people manually via Messenger. Okay. That is the quickest way to make money in your business. It's not posting another reel on social media. It's not posting another YouTube video. It is simply going to somebody's DM and having a conversation with them and trying to help them and see if they want to become a client of yours. Okay. That's the first thing. Second thing are sales calls. I have, today I only have 2 sales calls. Yesterday I had 3 sales calls. Like the purpose is this is what I do. I drive people from a messenger conversation to a sales call where I'm able to sell them a very high ticket item. Then from there, that's really all that I do all day. But I need to get better at it, right? I need to get a lot more disciplined because here's the thing. God is going to show you glimpses of what's possible, but then also you're going to see for yourself that you're able to accomplish this without putting in 100% effort. Then you start to ask yourself questions like, what if I did put in 100% effort? What would that be? What would that look like? So I'm not going to be the guy to stand up here and be like, I'm the most disciplined person of all time. I do all of this all the time. I don't, because I'm a human. I'm still growing. I still have a lot of stuff that I'm going through as well. So I would say that really my day's simple. I don't really go out. I don't party. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that stuff. Go to the gym. I eat my food, get my proteins in, try to stay under my fats and carbs, which I typically do. And then I go to bed. Okay. And it's repeat: message, sales calls, message, sales calls, message, sales calls. And if people literally just sent 100 DMs a day, their life would look dramatically different in 100 days. But I'll be honest, for me, it's super hard to do because out of those 100 people, you might only get 10 to 20 to reply. But how many people could do that? Well, I want people to think about this. Let's say you sell a 5K product. If you're able to just sell one of those a week at $5,000 and you send 100 messages a day, that's 700 messages. It only takes one person to make it only takes one person a week to sign up for your program to make $25K a month. And that's a lot of money to most people. That's like $300,000 or somewhere around there, 250 or 300. So that's really what my day looks like.
Okay.
Not
Awesome.
super, like flashy at all. It's not, because I'm not there, right? Like I'm not at the point in my business yet where I have a massive team doing everything because this is going to resonate with some people. I started to outsource things that I was afraid of doing myself. And a lot of times we get to the point, I need a VA. I need to hire this person. I need to hire that person. But it's not because we don't have the time to do it, but it's because we don't feel comfortable to do it. But what we don't understand is that we can never get somebody else to do something. Like we can never abdicate something that we're afraid of. Because in the back of our head, it's always going to be like, Deven, you should be doing that. You should be doing that. You should be doing that. So unless you're at the point where you literally cannot do more, I don't recommend people to hire people until you're at the place where if you have a lot of money in your business, number one, and then number two, if what you're doing inside your business is holding you back from making more money inside of your business or your health too, right? Because that's the ultimate, like your health, your family, can't sacrifice that. I speak to my mom and dad every day. That's kind of like a prerequisite as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I do in a day. Very boring, guys. And I was going to say I read books, but I don't really. I think a lot of people read books because they want to say to themselves that they're working hard. But in reality, they just read 50 books in a year and they don't do anything with it. So I'd rather read one book 10 times than read 10 books one time. That's something that I heard someone say, and I was like, yeah, that resonates. But yeah, anyways, that's what my day looks like.
And the thing that we're going to gather from that is you can have a full-time business and not have to sacrifice your health and your wellness, because at the end of the day, you're blessed with one temple. Your body is your temple. And as we mentioned earlier, if you're not taking care of your body and you're walking into situations to where you want to propose a business proposal to somebody, they are going to look at you. I mean, the reality is just that. And I know we live in a society now where everybody's like, oh, don't judge me. Words hurt. Okay, that's fine. And that's great. But even words that are unspoken are still words that are gathered in the mind, right? And we're still making decisions based off of, people's looks. If you come, and I just did an interview last week with Carter Cofield, and one of the things he mentioned is, you're not going to come to me and sit down and talk to me about how you can take my investment and scale me when I'm watching you sweat throughout this conversation because you can't breathe. Right? So it's like your lack of discipline speaks volumes before you ever open your mouth.
Yeah.
And with both of us here as CEOs, we still make the time. I mean, granted, I do the fitness full time, but like we still make the time because it is a part of our being and a part of who we are, and it's a non-negotiable. And at the end of the day, you need to sit down and set and determine what your non-negotiables are on top of what it is that you're doing in your business.
100%. I agree.
So Deven, what are your goals for 2024?
Oh, my goals for 2024. I'm so happy and grateful now that I've had my first $1 million month.
There we go.
That's something that I'm really grateful that I've done. And for me, I want weigh about 170 pounds. That's really where I want to get to. I'll be about like 8 to 10% body fat at that weight. So yeah, those are really the two big things. I want to take one trip per quarter. So yeah, the thing is I recommend one book to everybody, and that's 10X is Better Than 2X by Benjamin Hardy. Yeah, that's really. What's funny? I didn't tell you. Remember, I was getting denied at the ATM.
Mm-hmm.
So you walked by as I was getting denied at the ATM, Ben Hardy, and I was able to talk to him and snap a picture with him. Yeah, it was super fun. So it's funny. Remember, God's way. Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So those are some of my goals. But what that book really taught me are a couple of different things. Number one, when I was talking earlier, like sometimes people say like, what's the big purpose and all of this thing? Like, I don't know. I don't got this whole thing figured out. But I went to Tanner's house, one of my friends and mentors, about 2 months ago, and I was at a place where I was negative bank account, the whole 9 yards. And I said, Tanner, man, how do you, like, I just don't feel aligned right now. Like, what's going on? He's like, dude, you want to know your purpose right now? Yeah, please tell me. He's like, to not be broke. He's like, you got to do whatever you can to not be broke. And that really inspired me, because a lot of people think that we have to wait for God to come down and place like this magnificent purpose on our being. But reality is we have to, in that book and his other book, Be Your Future Self Now, Benjamin Hardy talks about setting contextual goals based off of where you are right now in this situation. So right now in this situation, those are definitely the goals that I know that I will achieve, but they're 10X goals, right? Like $1 million a month, that's 10X. We'll see at the end of this month, Mike. See, like, here's the thing though, when you think $1 million a month, you know what that does? That filters everything that you're currently doing. Because I know that if I want to get to $1 million a month, like there's only a certain number of things that I can do that will get me to that point. So number one, I have to form affiliate partnerships with the top podcasters. So what did I do? I went onto an app. I paid $100 to ask a top podcaster a question. I said, hey, how can I approach top podcasters and get them to want to be affiliate partners? My program is usually this price, and I'll get 15%. And he said, well, I think that's a great idea. I would love to be your first one. And he ended up, he's like one of the big dogs. His name is Brad Lee, if anybody is wondering. He's a big dog. And he's like, dude, I'd love to be the first one. So I knew that, okay, if I can have an army of affiliates who promote my product and service and bring me people, and all I do is give them 15%, that's a win-win for everybody. So what I say is, like, that is 10X level thinking. 2X thinking, I want to get to $200,000 a month. That wouldn't be in my mind. It would just be like, okay, like do this more, do that more, do that more, do that more. So yeah, those are some of the different goals. But I think I would say ultimately, for me to reach that next level, it's just going to require me becoming somebody different. I think it was Gandhi that once said, life is an indivisible whole. You can't be great in one area while lacking in another. So everything affects everything. So, for me, those goals, I look at them and I'm just thinking right now, like some of the things that I'm doing right now, I don't think a lot of us give credit to ourselves and understand that where we are is once where we used to pray to be.
That's so good.
Because right now, like 100, like when I was sitting at that table looking at it, I'm like, damn, bro, like, congrats, you did 100? Like, wow, like I look like you're Superman. But here's the thing, like also with that, it's all subjective. Like Elon Musk is making like 100 grand a minute. Right? So like there's never a game, and money's never the goal. For me, money does not do anything. But what I realize is that only when I wake up and I have something to pursue is when I truly feel happy. Like I'm able to wake up and just be in the fight. Otherwise, it's like just doing this for money. That's something that the government prints. It doesn't bring. Sure, I could buy stuff, but I still shop at Marshalls. Okay, I don't want to go to these bougie stores. I will buy a nice car. I will have a Rolex. All of these different things. But like reality, like why? Why do I? So there's a quote, and let me grab this real quick. So this is like what I love right here. It's called The Man in the Arena. Okay, The Man in the Arena, and it's by Theodore Roosevelt, and I'll just read it. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong person stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? See, I think I'm most happy, and I think we are most happy when we have a worthy cause, something that we are actively pursuing. So the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never knew victory nor defeat. So I say all of that to say, most people tiptoe through life hoping to arrive at death safely. That was something that Earl Nightingale once said, and it always resonated with me. Like I just really want to be in the position where I get to the end of my life and I can say, you know what? I'm happy with what I did. I put forth my effort. I took care of people, and I made people feel special, because I think that that's in the game that I want to play. Is I don't care. Like, I just want, when somebody comes across me, I had a mentor once say this, and I loved it. His name is Dennis Waitley. He's like an old, he actually he sold a tape. It's called The Psychology of Winning. It's the #1 audio tape of all time, 100 million copies sold. And he said, Deven, all I want people to say about me when they leave my presence is, I like me better when I'm with you. And I think for me, that's really all that I want people to say is, yeah, like, I'm better when I'm around him. So I'm better when I'm around you, my friend, because you just, I mean, this is great. I love this. This is a great conversation. I'm ready to go for another 2-3 hours.
Deven, I genuinely appreciate you, taking the time to come on here and share these amazing gems to everyone. For everybody that tapped in, I know you received immense value. We will send you an invoice shortly. No, just kidding. Deven, let the people know what you're working on currently, as well as where they can find you, how they can find you, what opportunities you have for them, and any words of advice.
Yeah. Words of advice. You're a lot closer to what you want than you could ever think, right? Like my boy Damon is in here right now. You look at Damon, and I used to like, that dude's like crushing it, which he is, right? But I viewed him as so far ahead of where I was. What I didn't realize was I was a lot closer than I thought. But like I said earlier, it doesn't take time to get to where you want to be. All it takes is a decision. And I really believe that after experiencing some things. So that's the first thing. My piece of advice is realizing that like the people that you're admiring, they're not that far ahead of you than you think. It just takes you thinking a little bit differently in order to get to that place, and taking a couple of different actions in order to get there as well. Second thing, in terms of what I'm doing right now, it's very simple. I am working with some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship to get them booked on top podcasts in entrepreneurship and business. So if you're somebody that is looking to get on top podcasts, I will preface this by saying if you are not in the position to invest at least $2,000 a month in your business. If you are in that position, then we can work together. But if not, I have tons of free resources, and I'll actually give something special that I only give away when I'm on a podcast. So what I give away is now, if you were to go to podcastpitchsecrets.com, you would get one half of what I call my Podcast Pitch Secrets course. And what it will teach you is how to pitch people to be on their podcast via email. But what I don't give away is the other half, which is how to actually do it in the DMs, which is way better. So for anybody that wants access to the complete course where I teach you how to do it both via email and DM, you could just DM me the word podcast on Instagram, and I will personally get your email. It's not going to be a robot or something like that. And I will go ahead and send that over to you so that you can get booked on some really awesome shows. So either way, whether you're in a position where you can invest a lot or you can't invest a lot, I want to just be able to help you. It doesn't matter if I make money, because at this point, money doesn't really matter to me. I just want to be able to help as many people that I can. That's why my company is called Storypreneur. You know, my mission is very simple: to help entrepreneurs share their story with more people and just make a little bit more money along the way, or a lot bit more money. So yeah, guys, that's really all that I have. Drop me a follow over here. I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff on here, because Patrick Bet-David, another one of my mentors, he said, Deven, you have to build your influence. And I listen to people that are smarter than me at this point. So, hey, that's what I got to do. Guess I'm going to be on here today, you know, as much as I don't want to. But the good news is it takes me like 10 minutes to post something. So that's a good point. But hey, I want to acknowledge you. This is an incredible podcast that you have here. And you are an incredible host that asks incredible questions. And I'm honored to consider you a friend. And thank you for leading by example and giving us a true definition, a true example, and just what a strong woman looks like in today's world, right? Because we don't have too many examples of those, just like we don't have too many examples of really strong men, but you exemplify that. So thank you for doing what you do. And for those of you that are listening, tap in with her, because she's like, you can't help but to get better when you're around people like you. Okay. So appreciate you for having me on. This was a really incredible experience. And I'm so grateful to be in your presence.
Thank you, Deven. I really, really appreciate that. The feeling is definitely mutual. Just out of curiosity, do you have a YouTube as well?
Yeah, I have a YouTube.
Will be streaming on YouTube. What's your YouTube?
You just go to Deven Rodriguez. Actually, funny story. I posted a video with Myron about a year ago, and it blew up and got like 100,000 views. So if you guys are looking for another great Myron Golden video to watch, you could also go to my YouTube. That's a crazy story for another time. So I got a YouTube. I'm going to be posting stuff on there. To be honest, I'm not going to be too active on there, guys, because that's not really my priority right now. But like I said, I'm more than happy to speak with anybody and support anybody, no matter where you are in your journey. Just hit your boy up and let's do the thing.
All right. Perfect. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tapping in. Deven, you are absolutely amazing. You have a phenomenal spirit, and your stories are so powerful. So definitely tap in with Deven. You know, if you're ready to take your business to the next level and you're serious, not curious about getting in front of the right people and taking up your assignment to inspire and, scale. Let's do this. So Deven, thank you so much again. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Talk soon, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Bye.